Okay, so I mentioned Daniel Schmachtenberger in my last video. And ever since then I've just been gone on like a sort of a schmuckty spree, watching a lot of his content and trying to absorb or assimilate it and understand it. But it is difficult. So let me see if I can't riff on some of his riffs, just to see how much I understand. But there's also like a message I want to get through right now on camera. Which sounds something like this. Why do people get captured by certain narratives? The climate change narrative being one, COVID narrative being another. Let me see if I can think of any other examples. No, I can't. Those two examples being prime examples of people seeming to just lose themselves, lose their intelligence and their analytical capacity to make observations and interpretations and then arrive at not definitive but just partial conclusions. People lose themselves when they get captured by these narratives. And it's like, why? Why do people get captured by those narratives? That's a difficult question. I'm sure, though, one answer has to do with the discomfort of staying with not knowing what to do. This is something Schmachty speaks to. There is a discomfort in being in the adaptive valley. What's the adaptive valley? The adaptive valley is the valley or the abyss into which you go, in which you find yourself when you earnestly seek to understand reality. And why do you find yourself there? Because reality is freaking complex. There are many issues that have yet to be solved. There are many issues for which solutions have yet to be proposed. And there are many issues for which our understanding is inadequate. There are many factors in the space of the unknown unknowns that have yet to be factored into our understanding of the issues at hand. So this is why we find ourselves in an adaptive valley, and this is why it's uncomfortable, because we don't have solutions to jump to and say, hey, here's a solution, let's just implement it. And this is again another point spoken to by Daniel Schmachtenberger. He says our very solution proposing mechanism is a problem. It is itself problematic because it's too narrowly focused on a single well-defined problem set. Okay, and with that narrow focus, that reductive narrow focus, climate change is the problem, for example, there comes a partial solution set which, because of its partiality and because of its having been proposed as a result of partial, inadequate understanding of the problem set, it is bound to create more problems than were present before the proposal and implementation of those solutions. What? How does that make sense? It's like a Hydra. You cut off one head, 3 more sprout up. This is only because our understanding of the situation is incomplete and partial. So, ergo, let's remain in the discomfort of the adaptive valley and try to understand the problems as clearly as possible. Okay, what's an example of humans implementing too narrowly focused and reductive a solution set to a narrowly focused and reductive problem set? Take the example of starvation, famine. What do we do about that? Okay, we need to increase crop yield. How do we increase crop yield? We address the limiting nutrient nitrogen in the soil. How do we do that? We spray the food crop with synthetic nitrogen. Therefore, we create more crop. Therefore, there's more yield for people to eat. Therefore, starvation done with, finished. We've addressed the problem. True, one of the first order effects of spraying nitrogen on the fields is increased crop yield, which itself leads to preventing starvation or feeding people a sufficient amount of food. Yeah, that's true, but then there's also like the second and third order effects. Second order effect of the runoff going into the water, causing eutrophication in the surface water bodies around the field that the chemical was sprayed in, causing death of fish there, because eutrophication means just like an algal bloom, and the algae and bacteria there consume all the oxygen in the water, which kills the fish beneath, which obviously leads to a decrease in biodiversity in the water. But then that nitrogen runoff goes into the ocean and causes ocean dead zones. Because again, eutrophication, same idea. Reduced oxygen, marine life suffers as a result. Decreased biodiversity, decrease marine or aquatic ecosystem resilience to perturbations and stress. Okay, so there is an example of a solution set that is partial and itself leads to more problems that have to be solved, which will again be solved by this same problematic solution creation mechanism that we humans resort to and have historically resorted to quite reliably. And so this gets to the point about humans wielding technological power in a historically true way, true to type way, as in there's a pattern of our wielding technological power that is conflict oriented and harm externalising because of this reductive focus on a certain set of metrics which we can check off. Yes, increase, good, but we forget to account for the almost infinite other metrics which are being affected by the implementation of a certain solution via technology, which then leads to more problems, so we get into this sort of positive feedback of implementing poor solutions, which leads to more problems, which leads to the implementation of more poor solutions, which leads to more problems. And we just get this effect of, well, now we're living in a world where that has been historically the case, but we can no longer resort to that solution-making mechanism because of exponential tech. Whoa. And how powerful technology has become. We humans are no longer just another species among many species. We are nature because we have the power now to destroy the world. Whoa. So, with that power, we must also develop the wisdom and prudence of gods, because being nature is like being gods, because we determine who lives and who dies. That is godlike power. But so we can't continue this pattern of conflict orientation and harm externalization with exponential tech, because just take, for example, our continued exploitation of natural resources from the earth. There's a finite amount of them. If we exponentially increase the rate at which we exploit and harvest those resources by using exponential tech, then that is a self-terminating trajectory, because those resources will deplete rapidly, and then there will come a point where there's none left, and then the lives that we have built, which depend upon the continued extraction of those resources, will collapse. So that is an example of a catastrophe. Okay, that's about all I'm going to say now. 8 minutes is long enough, 8.5 minutes of existential doom and gloom is long enough. Maybe I might end though by saying, okay, so if historically the pattern has been we wield technology in a conflict-oriented sort of a way where we externalize the harm, an adequate solution set would look like rejecting that pattern. And instead of iterating on the evolutionary process that has been historically true, where we sort of optimize for our in-group at the expense of an out-group, or if not intertribal sort of stuff, it's we optimize for our species at the expense of nature. So it's nature's books that we're drawing down. We're drawing down all the resources in nature's books, which is finite. So instead of doing that, we have to live in such a way that we can factor for all of the human motivations and the intertribal stuff and sort of neutralize that. Understand that we're all in this together. This is a shared boat, that we have shared fate. And also, Yeah, or also not externalize harm to the commons or nature so that we can live sustainably. And anything short of these criteria for a solution set, an adequate solution set, not that those criteria, not that that's an exhaustive list, it's just there's 2 examples of the criteria. Anything short of those is inadequate and will ultimately lead to our self-termination or some sort of catastrophes or dystopia. So, what's hopeful is that, okay, we have criteria. I'm sure there are more, and I'm sure in my studies I will eventually get there. I will understand them. What are the rest of the criteria? And I implore you to do the same. But that's hopeful. And what should be motivating is how far away we are from designing solution sets that are true to those design criteria. So that should motivate us into action and should get us thinking. It should get the cognitive wheels moving. And we should be able to apply our intelligence and our capacity for abstraction to then understand reality better and implement solutions that align with said reality and allow for the continued existence and flourishing of human life indefinitely into the future. Cheers to that. Let's launch it.